Hi guys, this is lesson 2-3, which is standard form of a linear equation. So first I have a warm up here just to review our last lesson, which is point slope form. If you can go ahead and pause your video and try these two and then come back and see how you did. All right, so hopefully you had a chance to try those. So let's go ahead and see how we did with these. So if you remember, you have two different ways that you could solve it. You can use the point slope formula, which is, let me write it up here, y minus y1 equals m, then x minus x1. Okay, so you could absolutely use that formula. The other option is to just substitute all of your values into y equals mx plus b. Since we have two problems here, I'm going to do one of each, and you should get the same answer no matter which way you do it. So in this problem here, we have our x1 and y1, and we have our m. So we're going to substitute all the values in here. So really the only values that we are changing is we're changing this, we're changing our m, and we're changing our x1. The regular x and y are part of the equation, so they need to stay. So I have y minus my y1 value is -3. My m value is -1. X minus my x1 value is 4. And then I just solve from here. So I see minus, minus. I don't like that, so I'm going to change them to plus, plus. So we have y plus 3 equals, and then I'm going to go ahead and distribute. So -1 times x is -x. -1 times -4 is +4. Okay, my goal is to get y by itself because I want the equation. So I want it to be in slope-intercept form. So I need to move this 3 over to the right. So the inverse of adding is to subtract. And I'm going to subtract it with its like term, which is our constant. So we get y equals -x, and then 4 minus 3 gives me 1. So this is my equation for this line. So looking at this equation, I can tell that it has a slope of -1 because it's a -1x, and it has a y-intercept of 1. Okay, now we're going to try the same thing over here, but this time we're going to use our regular slope-intercept form. Okay, we are going to solve for we're going to substitute everything in, then we're going to solve for b. So in this case, again, I have x and y, and I have my m. So y is -6, m is 2, x is -5. Make sure you put that in parentheses because this is multiplication here, plus b. We're not sure what b is. Okay, if I go ahead and multiply these, I get -6 equals -10 plus b. All right, if I'm trying to solve for b, I need to do the inverse of the subtraction that's here, -b. So I'd have to add 10 to both sides. So I get 4 equals b. All right, just one more step. I have all the pieces I need now because the only things I have to replace here are the m and the b. Okay, so let's go ahead and write our equation. Y equals m is 2, x, and then now I know my b is 4. Make sure that's a b. It does look like a 6, but our b is 4. So I'm going to add 4 to it. So like I said, regardless of which method you choose, you'll still get the same answer. Some people like this method. Some people like this method. I personally go with the slope-intercept form because it's one less equation that you have to memorize, but it's up to you. You can try it whatever way you would like. Okay. In this lesson, we're talking about the standard form of linear equations. So not only are we going to be able to write and graph linear equations that are in standard form, we're also going to interpret the x and the y-intercepts and what they mean in a given problem. So by the end, you should be able to solve real-world problems involving standard form. Okay, and I just want to give you guys a little idea of what the week is going to look like since I'm not going to see you in person today, virtual in person. So we are doing standard form today. Tomorrow, we are going to review all of the things from this week. So we're going to talk about slope-intercept form, point slope form, and standard form. And then you guys are going to take formative number 2 tomorrow. Okay, so at the end of class, I'll give you some time and you'll take formative 2. On Monday, we are going to be talking about parallel and perpendicular lines. That is the very last topic for this chapter. On Tuesday, we are going to review all of chapter 2, and then you will take your summative on Wednesday. Okay, so we are preparing for the summative on Wednesday. So if you have any questions or you need help with things, please, please, please let me know. I do have time during office hours and also during our revisit that I'll be happy to help you. Okay, so let's go ahead and move into standard form. So there are guided notes on Schoology if you would like to use it. I tried my best to make it where you could type in using the equation editor that we talked about. You can also double click on the graphs and edit them so you can graph them. It is not the greatest, but at least gives you something, because some of these things are hard to do just writing on paper. If you prefer pen and paper, that's perfectly fine too. You might want to jot down some of this information. Okay, but I just want to let you know it is in today's Schoology folder if you would like to use it. Completely optional. Okay, so standard form looks like this. AX plus BY equals C. And you will notice how our X and our Y are on the same side of the equation. Okay, so again, there are multiple ways of doing this as well. You could solve for Y, get Y by itself, and then graph it in standard form. But it's important that you know how to graph the intercepts right from this form as well. So that is what I'm going to show you today. Okay, so for example, if we have 3x plus 5y equals 15, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the x-intercept 0, and that will give us the y-intercept. So if you are graphing something, the y-intercept, the x value would be 0. So what I like to do is I like to go ahead and put 0 in. Like if I were to put 0 in here, let me fix that real quick. If I put 0 in here, that's going to cancel that part of it out. So I like doing what I call the cover-up method. So let me go ahead and get a box real quick. I'm choosing purple because it's my favorite color. All right. So we're going to go ahead and cover this up because that technically goes away, right? Because 3 times 0 is 0. So what I'm left with is 5y equals 15. All right. If I solve for y, I would divide by 5. So y equals 3. Okay. So we already know our x value is 0, our y value is 3. So the y-intercept would be 0, 3. Okay. So now if I want to find my other intercept, this time I'm going to make y 0. So I'm going to take my box and this time I'm going to cover it up. And you can even do this with your finger. If you have an equation, you can cover up the 3x with your finger and solve. And a lot of these are one-step equations, so you probably can do them in your head. And then this time I'm covering up the other one because 5 times 0 is 0, so that would go away. So I have 3x equals 15. So again, I'm writing this out. You may not have to. You might be able to just use mental math to figure this out. All right, so we divide both sides by 3, and I get x equals 5. So if I were to write my ordered pair, my x value will be 5, and my y value I know is 0. So I have my two intercepts. I have my x-intercept and my y-intercept. So what do you think the next step would be? Yes, we're going to graph them. And so on the next page, we're going to go ahead and graph these. So step 3 is to graph the intercepts that you found and connect them. So these were the two intercepts that we found, the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So I'm going to go ahead and put those values on our graph. Okay, so 5, 0 is going to be on my x-axis. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and up and down 0. And 0, 3 is going to be on my y-axis. I'm going left and right 0, but I'm moving up 1, 2, 3. And then all I have to do is get my line tool and connect these. And I would actually bring them out a little bit. Whenever you're graphing, you want to try to bring them out as long as you can. It's just a little bit harder on my screen here to do that. You want to try to go all the way across. Okay, so looking at my graph, that's what it would look like. Okay, let's try one more together, and then I would like you to try 2 on your own. Okay, so let's say I want to graph this one here. Again, I'm going to use the cover-up method. So I'm going to get my box again, And if I make x 0, I'm going to cover that up. And let's see if we can do this pretty quickly. So if I divide both sides by -9, I'm going to get, let me get my pen. Oops. I'm going to end up with y. It's not going to let me do it. It's being difficult today. All right, it's going to be y equals, well, -18 divided by -9 is 2. So that means that my ordered pair would be 0, 2. Okay, because my x value was 0, my y value is 2. And I can go ahead and put that on the graph. 0, 2 means I go left and right 0, but I go up 2. Okay, and then if I cover up the other one, if I cover this side up, now I have -18 divided by 3, which is 6. So let me see if I can type it again because it's not going to let me write. So my x value equals 6. So the ordered pair for that one would be 6 is my x value and my y value is 0. So one of yours will always be 0, depending on if it's the x or the y-intercept. Okay, so 6, 0 on my graph would be all the way over here. And then all I would have to do is take my line and connect the dots. Let's make it a different color since I used black. All right, pretty easy. Once you have 2 points, you can graph your line. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys 2 problems, and I would like you to try to graph these. If you're using my guided notes, all you have to do is double click on the graph, and then it will let you graph. You can use the shape tool to draw your dots if you would like, or you can just grab the line tool and go ahead and graph. So pause your video, try those out, and then we're going to come back and check them. Okay, so let's talk about these real quick. Okay, again, I'm going to use the cover up method. If I cover up my x value, I get y equals 0. So this means that my intercept is going to be 0, 0. Okay, so this is one of my intercepts. Whoops, it helps if I type a 0. Okay, if I take my box and I move it over here, I end up with, I have to divide both sides by 4. 0 divided by 4 is still 0, 0. So this one is actually kind of interesting. I really can't use my cover-up method with it. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to solve for y. So what I'm going to do is if I move my 4x to the other side, I basically get the equation y equals -4x. So you see I have no y-intercept. My y-intercept is at 0, 0. And then from here, we're going to go down 4 and right 1. And do you notice how, like, if I draw my line, so see how there is no x or y-intercept because it goes through the origin. So whenever you see where both of your answers are 0, 0, I would just go and solve for y by moving that 4x to the other side. This one, it just goes right through the origin. There is no x or y-intercept. Okay, let's try this one. So if I cover up my x value, I have to divide both sides by -2. So I end up with a y value of 3. So we would have an intercept of when x equals 0, y equals 3. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and graph that. 0, 3. I'm left and right 0, but I'm going to go up 3. Okay. If I move my box over to the other side, it tells me right away x equals -6. So my other one is going to be -6 when it's x, and the y value is 0 this time. Okay, so that one, I'm going to go right 6, but I'm going to move up and down 0. So this one has a positive slope. And it goes through like that. So how did you guys do? I know I kind of threw you for a loop on the first one. I just wanted to see if you could figure out what you would have to do. Right? Because sometimes it may go through the origin. It may not have x and y intercepts. Okay. All right. So now let's talk about some real life situations. Jay's making a playlist of 24 songs for a party. Since he prefers country and rock music, he builds a playlist from those two types of songs. So I like to use the cubes method for a lot of my word problems. For this one, some of it, there's not a whole lot to do. We could circle the numbers. We only have one there. We have 24. Okay, so I can do that. Let's circle 24. Okay, underline keywords. Well, in this word problem, it doesn't tell me any operations, add, subtract, multiply, or divide. It doesn't say anything like that. But we do know that we have country and we have rock music. Those are our two categories. Okay, box the question. This one happens to not have a question, so we're going to go ahead and leave that alone. But we do need to come up with an equation and solve. Now, I've already labeled our X and Y axis, so we need to make sure that we keep these consistent. So since my country music is on my X value, I'm going to go ahead and put country. And on my Y, I have rock. So those are my values there. And I swear this was built after my husband because that's all he does is country and rock, but his name is not Jay. But those are the two categories that he likes to listen to. Okay, so we need to list all of the possibilities that we could have for this. He has 24 songs that he could do. Okay, so we need to also put labels here. So think logically. In this case, does it make sense to have negative numbers? Would he put negative country songs on there or negative rock songs? No. So when you're graphing this, you really only need one quadrant. So if you want to draw the quadrant lines there, you can. And then you can also decide what you want to count by. Okay, so in this case, I think we probably do have enough here. Let's say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. We have 20 spaces. You can count by ones or you can count by twos, but you need to really decide what scale you're going to use. Okay, in this case, I think we're pretty safe counting by ones. Let me take a look and see what your book decided to count by. Sometimes they like to count by something different. We'll make it consistent. We'll see what they did. All right. They didn't even show the graph. Okay, but we can figure this out. We'll count by ones. It may go off of our thing a little bit. Actually, no, I want to count by twos. So just know that every value count by two. So I want to make sure that all 24 will fit on here. Okay, so if I had 0 country songs, how many rock songs would you have? Well, if he has 24 total, if there's 0 country, that means that there would be 24 rock. So I'm going to go up to 24. Remember counting by twos. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. Okay, so that value right there, we have 0 country. We have 24 rock songs. Okay, so that would be our ordered pair for that intercept. Okay, it would also work the other way. If he decides to have all country music and no rock songs, he would have 24 country songs, but 0 rock. So that's going to be our other intercept. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. So that would be our other intercept. We would have 24 country songs and 0 rock songs. Okay. And now that I have my X and my Y intercept, I can go ahead and draw that line to connect them. And it may be a little hard to tell on our graph, but you can get a lot of information from this. So for example, I see this is a point right there. Sorry, it's a really big point. But there's a point right there. And if I count, that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 country songs and 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 rock songs. Is 14 plus 10, 24? Yes. Okay, and this lists all the different possibilities that we could have, all the combinations of rock and country songs that he could have. Again, you probably would label yours. I don't have a whole lot of room here to label, but on yours, you would absolutely label your numbers. And you could list out different combinations of songs that he could have. Okay, so for this one, Hannah will spend $150 on music festival tickets. Reserved seat tickets cost $25, and general admission tickets cost $10. Okay. And we want to represent this linear situation. So we need to think, what two categories are we talking about? She's going to the music festival, but there's two different kinds of tickets that she could have. One kind of ticket that she could have are those reserved seats. So those are those special ones. Let's call that X. Okay. That's like the upgraded ones, the reserved ones. And then the other ones that she could have are just the general admission. Those are the ones that everyone can sit. Okay, those cheaper seats. A little bit further away from the stage, but cheaper. Okay, so now let's see if we can write an equation. Okay, if you want to go through the cubes method for this one, you absolutely can. But I know that it costs $25 for the reserved tickets. So I can represent that by 25x. Okay. Plus, we know the general admission tickets cost $10 each. So we can represent that with 10y. And we know the total that she wants to spend is $150. So this would be our equation for this one. Okay. I knew I was adding here because I see the word and in between our two types of tickets. And tells us to add the general admission plus the reserve, or vice versa. Okay. So if we were to graph this, we need to label our graph here. Again, think about it. Does it make sense? Would she spend negative money on festival tickets? No. So again, we only need our first quadrant. So our X value was our reserve. So we need to put reserve down here. And then that would also mean that our general admission would go on our y-axis. Let me switch that around so we can see it right. Whew. There. Okay. All right, that's our general admission. Okay, now then we need to decide what we would like to label this. Let's first find our intercepts, and then that will tell us how we can label. Do we want to count by ones? Do we want to count by twos, tens, whatever? So you can use that cover up method, just like we did in class earlier. If I cover up my X value, I would have 150 divided by 10. Okay, and that would give me 15. So the first order pair I would have, when my X value was 0, my Y value was 15. Okay, so that is one possible answer. Now, if I cover up the other one, I have 150 divided by 25. So think, if I have $1.50 and how many quarters are in $1.50? Well, there's 4 in $1 plus 2 more would be 50. So that would be 6 tickets. So in this case, our X value is 6 and our Y value was 0. So in looking at my two intercepts, this tells me that I really don't need to go above 20. We already know that this is 20 spaces. So I can count by ones. So again, if you want to label yours, that's fine. You can count by ones. But I'm going to go ahead and put my two intercepts on here. So my first intercept is 0, 15. So I'm going to go left and right 0, but I'm going to go up to 15. So let's say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, right there. Okay. So that is this ordered pair. Okay. My next one is 6, 0. So I'm going to go right 6, 2, 4, 6. And I'm going to go ahead and label, oops, let's do that again. Go ahead and label that one as my 6, 0. And we can connect the dots. And this will tell us all of the different combinations that she could do. So again, it might be easier on your paper, but I can see there's a couple points in between that might actually work out. They hit right on the crosshairs of the grid. So those values mean that they would be perfect numbers. They would be whole numbers. You don't want decimals in this case. You can't buy part of a festival ticket. Okay, so then it says, what do the X and Y intercepts mean in context of this problem? Okay, well, 60 means that she could buy 6 reserve tickets, but she can't buy any general admission tickets at all because she ran out of money. It's 6 tickets is the entire 150. And then 015 means she's buying 0 reserve tickets, but she could buy 15 general admission tickets. Okay, so it's good to know what those things mean, and labeling your X and your Y are really, really helpful. Okay, so if she wants to bring more friends to this concert, then she definitely wants to go with the general admission tickets because she can't buy as many reserved. Okay, this is the last one. What I would like you to do is go ahead and pause your video. I would like you to try this one on your own and then come back and check your answers and see how you do. My hint for you is that look at the picture over here because that's where a lot of the information you need for this problem is. Okay, hopefully you had a chance to do that. So what I'm going to do is let me make this a little bit smaller so we can see our whole graph on there. Make it a little bit bigger. Okay, it's the same type of problem, just we're talking about almonds and cashews now. Tamira is making trail mix. She has $40 to spend on a mixture of almonds and cashews. So almonds and cashews are our 2 categories that we have here. Okay, so let's go ahead and label them. It doesn't matter which one you make which. I usually go in the order of the problem. So since almonds was talked about first, we'll make that our X value. And our Y value would be the cashews. Okay. So she wants to spend $40 and it doesn't tell us over here the value, but over in the picture it does. So how much does it cost for a pound of almonds? Well, it costs $8 per pound. So we're going to say 8x. And I see and in the problem. So we're going to go ahead and put a plus sign there if I can hit the plus sign. Because it's almonds and cashews we need to add. And then cashews cost $10 per pound. So I'm going to say 10Y. And the total that she wants to spend is $40. Okay, so if we go ahead and label our graph here, I'm going to clone this. We're going to make our almonds is our x-axis, and our cashews are our y-axis. And before I start labeling any numbers, I am going to go ahead and solve my intercepts. I kind of think it's going to end up being counting by ones, but we're just going to double check just in case. Okay, so if I use the cover up method, I'm going to take my thing, cover this up. So when my x value is 0, my y value, if I divide them both by 10, my y value is going to be 4. 0, 4. Okay. And then if I move my box and cover up this side, I'm taking 40 divided by 8, and I get 5. Okay. And so my other one is going to be my x value is 5, my y value is 0. Okay, again, double check. You do not want, both of these should not have x values of 0 because you're talking about an x and a y intercept. The 2 points cannot be on the same axis. Okay. So again, 0 and 4, I think I can count by ones. I think I'll be pretty safe to do that. Okay, if I want to count by something different to kind of grow my graph out a little bit, I could probably even count by 0.25s if I wanted to, or 50 cents, whatever the case may be. It's completely up to you. Again, let me see what your book did. Yep, it looks like the book counted by ones as well, so we can go ahead and do the same thing. Some people like to count by decimals just to make your graph fill up the whole space, but that's fine. So our first point is 0, 4. So I go left and right 0, but I go up 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And my second point is 5, 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And go ahead and connect our 2 points. So these are all of the possibilities that we could have. Okay. So this was our 0, 4. This over here was our 5, 0. And then it says, what does the x and y intercepts mean in context of this problem? Well, 0, 4, our x value is 0, so there's no almonds, but you can buy 4 pounds of cashews. And then 5, 0 means there's no cashews, but we can have 5 pounds of almonds. Okay, and then in between, these are all the other combinations that you could have. Okay, now in this problem, it does make sense to have those decimals because you could buy part of a pound of almonds or part of a pound of cashews. So it really does depend on your problem. In this case, that makes sense. You could buy half a pound of almonds and have more cashews. But this is the typical problem. They ask you, what do these two numbers, what do the x and y intercepts mean in context of this problem? So that would be more of like a extended response. You would have to type out in words. You know, you can buy 0 pounds of cashews and 4 pounds of almonds, or you could buy 5 pounds of almonds and 0 cashews. Okay, so your exit ticket for today is on Schoology. So it's on Schoology, but it's actually on Envision. So if you go to the Schoology page, it shows you what it is. But when you log in Envision, I believe it says 2-3 exit ticket. There are like 4 or 5 practice problems there. I just want to make sure that we really get our standard form. You might want to write these down on a piece of paper, but for some of you may be able to do it in your head. So go ahead and turn those in. If you have any questions, I am available in our online classroom. So come on in and ask for help.